Now back to the show. This is The Law Show on CL 650.
Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so cross your heart? Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so cross your heart?
Hey, welcome back to The Law Show. I'm Zach Spencer. You're listening to CL 650, and we have a very interesting subject in this segment, immigration law about the BCPNP. That's the Provincial Nominee Program. A certain percentage of people who come into the country can be nominated by the provincial government. I guess that's the easiest way to describe it. And to help define that for us, Rudy Kisher and Alex Stojkovic from MKS law firm in downtown Vancouver. They're experts in immigration and citizenship law. So Alex, under this BCPNP, who gets to come in? Like, what are the categories that people fall into?
So the biggest two categories, I mean, there's several different ones. One that's very big one is international graduate. That's a category designed for people who have gotten a full-time job in a higher skill level occupation, or in certain circumstances in a lower skill occupation, who have graduated from a British Columbia university.
So they've already put the time in here.
Yes.
And they've gone to school.
From a BC college or BC university. There's a way for them to be fast-tracked in this system. Okay?
That's probably a good thing.
It's probably a good thing, yeah. The long-standing program, the challenge, of course, is that there's a backlog of cases from last year, and you're going to hear that from me on pretty much all of these categories. Yeah. That is a certain percentage is allocated to them. A certain percentage is allocated to people that we've talked about earlier that Rudy mentioned as being skilled workers identified by employers as being critical for their business. There's a subsection of that also that are called entry-level or semi-skilled, and 10 to 15% of the allocation goes to those National Occupations Code C or D professions.
What kind of jobs are they?
Well, specifically, they're geared towards industries that have really lobbied the government to have an avenue for their workers who otherwise cannot be selected in the federal process or the regular BCPNP process to have a pathway to permanent residence. Those would be restaurant workers, hotel front desk clerks and cleaning staff in the hospitality industry, and finally, truck drivers, long-haul truck drivers. These three are, those three categories represent 10 to 15% of the 5,500 allocation. And often these are the most controversial.
Because there's a lot of people say, well, these are, you know, why can't Canadians do these jobs? And because you don't need a specific skill. Really.
It's true. Long-haul truck driving traditionally does not require particularly skills that are difficult to obtain.
Yeah.
Well, so, I don't know if you ever see me back at my car. I'd say it's. I think it's a skill that's hard to obtain. But yeah.
The challenge is that people don't want to do that work.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what it is.
And
it's like
really
we're doing the jobs that people don't want to do anymore. Cleaning hotel rooms, things like that.
So the push and pull here with the province is the province has felt compelled to include that component in any rollout of any program. And because there's been strong lobbying from the industry groups to do that, and the compromise is that they're allowing a certain percentage of their allocation to go to those.
Because you would suggest that if you don't have people filling those jobs, a lot of those businesses, they just grind to a halt. If you don't have the drivers, you don't have somebody running your hotel cleaning staff, what are you going to do?
Absolutely. I mean, the simple answer some would have would be pay them more. I mean, certainly
you get more applicants.
Yes.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's not realistic.
I mean, I think a concern that I've raised with the program over years, and we still don't have, is a study on these applicants that are coming in through the semi-skilled program. We've now had the program. We've had this semi-skilled category, I think, around for probably 5-10 years now.
Yep, that's right.
I've asked for a study in terms of, do you guys track where do these people end up? And they say it's in the works. So
right.
they haven't. They don't have.
They're doing a study on the study.
Well, they don't have. They never had a good tracking system to see where these people actually ended up. And my question is, do they stay in these semi-skilled jobs, or do they move up in terms of getting more skills and moving ahead, or are they, when our selection criteria is basically you have a job, it's not very high on your language ability or your education. Where do they end up in 5 to 10 years? Are they still at the lower age, the lower wage scale, or are they moving up? And we don't have the answer to that. Nobody does.
The challenge in this program that the government has rolled out, where there's a scoring allocation, is that one of the interesting scoring allocations that really is a big variable is wage. So if you're paid well, you get a lot more points than if you're not paid very well. there's also a regional allocation. So if you're working outside of the Lower Mainland, and not including the Northeast, which has its own pilot project, quite separate from this, because
That's oil and gas, right?
Oil and gas, but mineral extraction generally. Plus, the province is considering, it's concerned about workforce for the
Site C.
Site C and for various other projects up in the Northeast. All of that is played into the point system as well. So they're trying to balance the regional interests. Where, look, I mean, the issue might be in a restaurant on the road to Fort St. John is that they literally can't attract somebody to go work at this roadhouse, even if it's very profitable. And even if they paid $30 an hour for what would be in Vancouver a $15 an hour job, they can't get anybody. So that's one separate set of issues from the main issue, which is, can you be selected or can't you be? And the challenge that has occurred now is that if you look at even in that semi-skilled entry level, truck drivers are paid a lot better than cooks are. There's no tip pool to pay truck drivers out of, where you can download on the consumer the actual
fee,
costs.
yeah.
So those industries are complaining that they've been, handled poorly by the province in favor of industries that are paid better. So, I mean, those are some of the policy challenges with this system.
Any other categories we should mention?
Entrepreneur. This is an allocation of between 300 and 360 a year, are for people that are starting businesses in British Columbia.
That seems very low to me.
Well, they have a massive, that's always been my complaint about the program, is that they should probably open it up. They have a massive backlog. They have 2,000 applications from investors, mostly from mainland China, that have stated that they're willing to come and invest and start businesses. The problem that they found is that the refusal rate right now for those applications is around 50%. So, every other application they're looking at, they don't believe the applicant that they're actually going to immigrate to Canada, right? So they've tried to revamp the program where they've also got a pooled system now, so you're not guaranteed. You can imagine how, trying to explain to a client, why don't you come and
You're putting your capital at risk, right?
Yeah, spend several $1,000s, and we'll put together a proposal. And I know you want to buy that business tomorrow, and we'll wait for the provincial government to pick you to see if you can actually go ahead with that business. And it's a problem. They want quality control, but on the other end of that, an entrepreneur typically is looking for speed. So when an entrepreneur comes to me, I'm like, they've got this program. I usually try and find another avenue to get them a work permit, because most entrepreneurs, in my experience, can't wait.
Yeah, and they don't want to have their money tied up in a maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Any others? No, those are the main ones.
Those are the main categories. I mean, really, the province has geared this year, because it's still it's allocated so much of its resources this year to dealing with its backlog, that you really it's going to be hard to judge this year how they did, because they're really only going to choose maybe 2,000, 2,500 people under this new system. So really 2017 will be a gauge of how flexible this new point scoring system is. If they can handle their demand in a way that returns them to sort of the nimble numbers of processing in 8 to 16 weeks versus processing in 16 months.
And my guess is it will, but what's going to happen is you're going to end up with a pool of people in BC that have come here to work as students, to come here as temporary workers, and won't be able to immigrate under this program, right?
Is there a different language requirement through the BC system? Or is it the same as the federal system? It
changes under every system and on what category, and you get awarded different points. So there's no one language requirement across the board, although the feds have pushed very hard on all provincial programs that they have a minimum, what they call the Canadian Language Benchmark 4, which is sort of a basic level of English of all programs. The only one that's been exempt from that so far is the Investor Entrepreneur Program, and the thought is that they're eventually going to move on that.
But in fairness, almost every category requires certain, like if you don't speak English, you're working at a big disadvantage in all of the categories now, the way these have been rolled out. But before we get to, there are people that graduate from significant Vancouver institutions, Lower Mainland institutions, who can't pass Language Benchmark 4.
I just wanted to pick up on the last show. You had the minister in town for the Canadian Bar Association National Conference, and he was very strong in that he wants to have a strong federal system. So do you think that they're going to pull some of the powers back away from the provinces and have it centralized in Ottawa?
Well, I don't think so. I don't think they're going to pull back. I think future expansion is not going to happen.
I totally agree with that. I think it's dead in the water. It's hard to take something away from somebody, because then you got a political fight, but all they're going to say is no, right? And
but wouldn't the provincial government be like, great, we don't pay for this system. You handle it.
The problem with that for places like Manitoba or even BC, if you talk, they want more immigrants. When they're selecting the immigrants, they have employers that are saying we need more people here. We need these workers, right, for Site C Dam or whatever the project is, and they like to have control over that. But I don't think the feds is going to give them to. I mean, it was very clear from Minister McCallum when he spoke. He said he's a federalist, and he doesn't want to see a further devolution of powers going to the provinces.
He wants express entry and the federal system to support those employers' needs. He does not want. He's very clear that he doesn't necessarily see a role in the provinces in expansion of that.
So you think it'll be status quo?
Yeah,
It'll be status quo.
All right, when we come back, we'll get into the LMIA exempt. You know, I love all your acronyms here, so I have to find out from you what they all mean, which is why you're here. We have Rudy Kisher and Alex Stojkovic. They are immigration and citizenship lawyers talking about the changes on the federal side, the provincial side, how it impacts people moving to British Columbia. This is The Law Show. I'm Zach Spencer. We'll continue next on CL 650.
There's more of the show still ahead. This is The Law Show on CL 650.